What's up, everybody? This is Rabid Hedgehog. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Law Tigers of Oklahoma, AGVSportUSA, and AMSOIL. We want to thank them for helping us provide funds for gear, equipment, and everything to help film what we do, and also keeping our bikes protected and the riders protected. Check out the description below for contact details. On March 15th, 1921, the Moto Guzzi Company was born. Founded by two Italian aviators and their mechanic friend, with the spread-winged eagle badge in memory of a lost friend in aviation, the company built their first motorcycle, the 8-horsepower Moomaw, powered by a 500cc engine. Followed in 1928 by the Guzzi GT, or otherwise known as the Norge. The company would go on to make a name for themselves in racing, racking up an astonishing 14 World GP championships and 11 Tourist trophies until their withdrawal from competition in 1957. They would also go on to innovate in the industry. They would go on to build the first V8 motorcycle engine and even built the first motorcycle wind tunnel, one of the only ones in existence to this day. In 1967, they would go on to introduce what has become their hallmark, the 90-degree V-twin that we see today. This would go onto the platforms such as the V7, California, Ambassador, Eldorado, and the sporting type motorcycles, the Le Mans, Daytona, Centauro, and Griso. The company would go through rocky times such as being bought out by the SEIMM, De Tomaso, Aprilia, and finally Piaggio in 2004. But through it all, this company has done something that few others can claim: continuous production for those 100 years. In 2021, the company is commemorating this milestone by releasing 3 Centenario models in V7, V9, and V85 TT. And with the help of Motiv Cycleworks Moto Guzzi in Oklahoma City, guess what Team Hedgehog managed to find? That's right, the 2021 Moto Guzzi V7 Centenario Edition. At $9,190 US, this is the middle of the road for the V7 class this year, bearing the new 853cc air-cooled transverse V-twin, now having 65 horsepower and 54 foot-pounds of torque, 90% availability at 3,000 RPM. Transmission is 6-speed with a final drive that is still a shaft, with 40mm non-adjustable 5.1-inch travel front shocks, dual shock in the rear with spring preload adjustability at 4.7 inches of travel. The brake is a single full-floating 320mm Brembo disc up front and a single 2-piston caliper 260mm disc out back. It does have 28 degrees of rake and trail, 57.1-inch wheelbase, a 30.7-inch seat height, and a 480-pound curb weight. Carrying 5.5 gallons of gas, this bike has impressive range for its size. So let's go ahead and take this one for a ride.
So welcome to the V7. The newest version, the 2021, now has a new 853cc engine, a new chassis, new suspension, and of course in 2021, Moto Guzzi is celebrating its 100th anniversary. So this here is the Moto Guzzi Centenario Edition. So it is in the racing silver and green that Moto Guzzi was famous for back in the day. And my goodness, what a pleasurable ride this machine is. It really is one of the best motorcycles to ride upon. Seriously, I mean, I have rode this bike now for about 240 miles. And I have to say, it's one of the best machines that I've ever rode. It's comfortable. The suspension is nice and compliant, maybe a little too soft. But to be honest, when you're just cruising and you're just using this bike for what it was built for, it's just right. It just feels right. It just rides right. The seating position is a wonderful standard position. As you can see, my legs come almost straight down to my feet, where they're a little bit back toward my hips, but I sit fairly straight up, a little bit hunkered down, but not bad. It's a nice, easy riding position, that's for sure. one to get along with for long trips and everything like that. And I'm out here on the open road doing what it likes to do, just cruise. I mean, it's amazing how fast this little guy can get without you realizing it. As you can see, I had to back off just a little bit. Got up to around 80 on accident because you don't really feel it. You know, you get that Moto Guzzi soul when you start this machine up and it's sitting at idle. It sits there and it rumbles and it jiggles and everything is moving. The machine is alive, that old tractor feel that these machines have been well known for the V-line over 50 years, for now 100 years. People call these things the tractors because they're so simplistic. They're not a modern machine whatsoever, you know, they're like Italy's Harley Davidson, but with class. And I hate to say that, but there's definitely some class when you ride a Moto Guzzi, because they're comfortable, they feel good, they look good. I mean, to me, the inverted V sticking out both sides, the way the tank is an elongated tank, the seat nice and flat with a little curvature to it. The lines are beautiful on this machine. These, of course, are more hand-built than most of your American motorcycles. They're more looked over in the same factory for over 100 years. There's pride in there. And you feel it when you ride a bike like this. It truly is a soul-touching motorcycle, and I can't explain why. Whereas the FTR is fast, nimble, and fun and exciting and crazy in its own right, there's something about getting on a motorcycle that's simple, not space-agey, not necessarily fast, not cutting edge. It's nostalgia done right. It's nostalgia done to a point of perfection that simply cannot be explained. It touches the soul of the rider as they ride. And that makes for a fantastic machine. I mean, seriously, as I ride this bike everywhere that I can, I've only known it for a week, got some miles in on it so that way I can kind of put my thoughts together to figure out what I think of it, commuted with it, put a tank of gas through it, did everything of that nature. Take it to twisties, take it around town, feel it around town, feel it in downtown, feel it everywhere. On these open roads that America has, these big flat open spaces that Oklahoma has. And the thing is, it does so well everywhere. It makes me feel good to ride. If you recall when I rode the V7 Shine, it was the same way. I kept pausing and thinking about the ride and how good it was. But this one is so much better than that, because that little bit of power, it's only 65 horsepower. It's not a big deal. It's only 54 foot-pounds of torque. It's not powerful. It's not fast. It's not the craziest, latest, and greatest technology. It's a 2-valve cylinder. It's overhead valves. It's old school, but it feels so right. And when you ride it, the vibrations start to go away. They become kind of an afterthought. They kind of fade away. And as you ride and ride and ride and put miles on these machines, it takes you back to a simpler time. And the funny thing is, you don't realize that it does have 2 traction control modes. It does have ABS. It has new school features hiding in the background. It has a full LED screen in front of me. So when it has all this stuff going through, it's got these modern touches everywhere that reminds you that this is a 21st century machine. But it doesn't ride like it. It kind of rides like my old CX500 that's now 41 years old. It doesn't vibrate as much as that bike, that's for dang sure. But it feels like that time. It captures it so well. But it does so in a package that's more powerful, that's more elegant, that's simple and beautiful. I mean, it's funny, both of these bikes, the CX 500 and this one, are shaft drive. There's not enough power here for you to overwhelm that shaft drive, so you don't really feel any shaft jacking or anything like that. You have a dry clutch on this machine like you do a car, so you got to be careful with it. But the clutch is so buttery light. Now, I will say that whenever you're going from a stop, that there is a little vagueness to the clutch, because as you pop it out and you get to the friction zone, you barely feel that it's catching it. So you do have a little bit of vagueness to the clutch travel itself, but in motion, you really don't care, because the shifting is buttery smooth. The clutch is very buttery whenever you're working on actually doing what it's supposed to do and shifting. Yes, taking off can be a little tricky if you're not used to it, but it's just feeling that out, and you'll get used to it with ownership. You'll get used to it as you ride. It's one of those things that you'll get there. Like the FTR, you go to pop out that clutch and it's almost immediate, and it will snag you and throw you for a loop. And this one's not an immediate hit you in the face kind of deal, which is a good deal. It's a nice, gentle, pleasurable ride. And that's the whole thing. I cannot get over just the perfection level of how this thing rides. The downshifts are great. The engine braking on this thing is fantastic. I don't really feel any notchiness to the transmission whatsoever. Every once in a while I'll catch a neutral a little bit off guard there, but that's also one of those things you get used to. It's just you got to get used to how far you need to travel with it. You can see this thing is balanced almost near a stop, and both my feet still remained on the foot pegs. And the thing is I don't think you could ever be mad on this motorcycle. Seriously. That is a weird thing to say, because sometimes you just go out on a motorcycle ride and you start playing with it. You get on a bike that's fast, furious, and evil, and you start flogging on it, and you just kind of get this adrenaline going and this pumping. But this bike just, it's just soul cleansing. It's totally soul cleansing when you're on this machine, because it really does take you back to simpler time. You listen to the engine, you can hear it singing its songs, you can hear the mechanical functions of it, the valves tapping away and everything. You just hear those noises, and the machine sings a perfect song to your soul. I'll try to post some sound bits regarding the engine noise. Might be a little windy because I'm going to try my media mod real fast and see if that'll work. But hopefully you can kind of hear how this motorcycle accelerates. So let's go ahead and do that real fast. So hopefully you could hear how this machine sounds as it accelerates away. It sounds so old school. You could hear the gears meshing. You can hear the whine of everything. You can hear the valves tapping. You can just hear everything actuating and moving. And like I said, it's so perfect for a machine to just do that sometimes. Now, when you're looking around the controls and the ergos, I have to say that it's a very nicely set up motorcycle. It's very simplistic. So whenever you're riding on this mode, if you put this all the way down for your light selector, that only turns on the eagle in your LED. So you only get that on if you have it dropped all the way down. For your main DRL, or main beam, or not main beam necessarily, but your regular headlight, you push it to the middle. And as you could see when I was in that other, you could see the DRL light is on down there. Push it to the middle, and now you have your standard DRL on. Once again, that full LED set that's up there for the headlight and tail light. And push it all the way forward, of course, is your high beam. And this thing is phenomenal at night. I mean, it is a motorcycle that when you can see, it's like a 30-second light. I mean, it is incredibly bright. And the way they have the eagle shaped out, it actually allows it to see side to side so well, even on regular beam, that you don't have to worry about your side to sides too. It's a very, very well done light. Much brighter than even the night pack version of the V7 as well. Up ahead, you do have a flash to pass on that side of it. Of course, your standard turn signals, push to actuate, push down to cancel, your horn. And on the right side, you do have your starter switch, your mode, and your engine cutoff switch. Now, when it comes to training out some of these modes, whenever you're doing it, you'll actually hit the mode button. You can see I got a current trip basically, and that is the one that I'm currently on, so since last fuel. How long you've been riding, your average speed, average fuel consumption, fuel live, and then there's your MGCT1, which is your Moto Guzzi traction control. And then to change that, it's a little trick thing. You don't actually hold the mode button, you hold the starter button, just to throw you off. If you hold that, there you go, MGCT disabled. You hold that again, and it goes back to 1. You can switch it to 2. Now the way you'll switch that is if you're actually at a stop, and it'll allow you to switch to MGCT2, which is a little bit more invasive version. I usually keep it on 1 just to keep it on the fun side. But I mean, there's not a lot of motorcycle here for you to worry about that kind of deal. Now up ahead, as you saw, the odometers and all that fun stuff, just over to the left, you have an outdoor temperature gauge. To the right, you have your time of day. You see a gear counter right there. 6-speed transmission. You can of course see the very in-your-face speedometer, and up around the top is your tachometer. Does not have a red line showing on it though. Also, if you get a little frisky with it, this big bar here is not a gas gauge, sadly. Moto Guzzi, why in the world did you not make that a gas gauge? I mean, let's be honest here. That is the perfect thing for a gas gauge. Giant bar with things that tick down, right? No, not for Moto Guzzi. No, the Italians have to be Italians and do something weird. So that is actually an indication of when to shift if you get a little frisky with it. So it'll actually tell you when to gear up. Now the funny thing is, in your menu button, you can change when to do that. So you can tell it what RPM to tell it to do the shift indication. So you can kind of set your shift indicator on your own. As you'll see, I'll get up to speed here. There, you see that gear shift? And it blinks at you. So, one of those random Italian things, not having a gas gauge, you just have a fuel light. Now, one thing I will say about this machine is the fact that for a small bike like this, it has a 5.5 gallon gas tank. And that 5.5 gallons can last you quite a bit of time on a machine like this. You see, the first tank of gas I went through took over 200 miles. 204 to be precise, actually. And I put in 4.3 gallons of gas. So at that rate, I could have gone to a theoretical, although close, 253 or so miles before needing an actual tank of gas and being very close to probably getting to where it's going to get below the pickups for the fuel injection system. So 250 miles on a small 480-pound standard motorcycle, and that is phenomenal. But the thing is, it's so comfortable and it's doable. I have spent multiple hours in the saddle already on this machine with a 4-hour jaunt, and it is a fantastic place to be sitting. The seat is wonderfully designed. It's plush. You have enough flat spot that if you don't have a passenger, if you need to move around to shake your legs out a little bit, you can move up to the back. You can move back up to the front and shake your legs out a little bit. Because you have that kind of straight down procedure, you can even stand up on this machine and you can kind of get that leg stretched out and have some fun on it. So that's the great thing about this machine, is that it has the long ride in mind, despite the fact it's a small motorcycle. It's not just a city cruiser. It's not just a little canyon carver. It's an all-arounder. And the bike that always I come back to for the best all-arounder was the Yamaha MT-07. The motorcycle that I absolutely fell in love with because of how simplistic it was and how easy it was to ride, and the power was just level and wonderful. Well, this machine here does it better, because the Yamaha doesn't have the soul or the character. It just feels like a motorcycle. This one feels like something special. And the thing is when you get up on these turns, it does some special things that you wouldn't expect it to do. But don't expect to drag pegs. Don't expect to take things at a huge, fast pace. Don't expect to do MotoGP style rides and drop a knee or anything like that. Treat this bike with the respect that it needs. Treat this bike with the way it should ride. You know what? You just press and you enter. And you can see you can just hold this speed wonderfully. And the nice thing about it is the chassis is so nice and taut that these poor cars have no idea how to do this, and I can just sit here and simply transition and slice them away in a heartbeat. And it's so sad that I don't get to play like that because of the cars in front of me, because they don't all of a sudden can't speed because they don't know how to drive. These are simplistic turns, my friends. It doesn't matter if you're in a motorcycle or a car, you can do this at speed. But the thing is, you don't care. You simply let the little V7 do V7 things. Seriously. You just ride to ride. Something that sometimes we forget about that. Sometimes as motorcyclists, we forget we have to ride to ride. Not just ride to work or any of that stuff. Just get out and enjoy what the freedom of the road has to offer. Just let the machine sing to you. All right, let's hope for some less traffic on this go around here. Let this bike talk to me a little bit more in the corners. Like I said, the suspension, traditional fork, 41 millimeter. In the front, no adjustments any way, shape, or form. Preload only in the rear. But that new setup back there. Like I said, a little soft, but you know the thing is it's got good road feel. It transmits how it feels on the road to the rider really well. So it tells you if you're planted or not. There's a lot of times where we're removed from the machine because all we're looking for is complete and utter comfort. In reality, we need to let the machine speak to us a little bit more. Let it decide if it's capable of doing it or not by telling us so, using its own mechanical ways. And this bike is very capable of doing just that. The Brembo brakes on it, the massive single disc up front, has good progressive bite. The rear one as well. Not a sponge here, not anything. Everything is taut, everything is well designed, well built, well thought out. As you can see, this motorcycle is just transitioning each corner. Minimal pressing on the bars. The machine is just going through. Like a fine instrument that she really is. There's just something about it when a motorcycle is capable of talking to its rider like this. And it just seems to me that so many motorcycle companies have forgotten about that. Trying to get it so smooth that you don't feel the engine, trying to get it so plush that you don't feel the road, trying to get it so technologically advanced that it somewhat takes away the rider's ability to make the motorcycle ride the way they want to ride. And it does not seem like this motorcycle does that in any way, shape, or form. It's basically as pure and as wholesome of a motorcycle ride as that you can get. To Moto Guzzi, we thank you for being around 100 years, and we hope that you will stay around for 100 more. Times change, I understand that. With electrification of everything, with governments cracking down on how emissions can come out the tailpipes and how things can sound and how things can work. I understand that there's going to be a day where it may be hard, but we hope that a company that keeps the passion in their machines, like you guys, will stay around for another 100 years. It doesn't exactly listen to the focus groups and the naysayers and the people who do not know what they're talking about. Let them design a motorcycle, because this machine right here is just motorcycle nirvana. It is perfection. It is how it should be. Just man, seat, machine, road. And my gosh, is that a great combination. So, I'll kind of hit those negative points again. Suspension might be a little soft for some. No adjustment in the front. Clutch may be a little bit vague to some. But what are we doing? Are we MotoGPing? Are we racing? Or are we getting back to the open road and just enjoying the ride the way it should be enjoyed? On a simple, fun, fantastic machine. Hopefully that's what you all will be doing. If you purchase one of these, you will not regret it. This is a motorcycle that you just feel the passion, and you feel the road, and you feel everything, and you feel the joy it is, again, to be a motorcyclist. At any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you have any more questions about the 2021 Moto Guzzi V7E5 Stone, let me know in the comments below. Keep that shiny side up, folks. We'll catch you on the next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and thanks once again for watching our videos. Please like, share, subscribe today if you like what you've seen. We also want to give a shout out to our dealership partners and motorcycle mechanics. We have Motiv Cycleworks, Moto Guzzi out of Oklahoma City. They are both mechanic and a Moto Guzzi dealership. They are located at 906 North Ann Arbor Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73127, or 405-641-1801, or motivcycleworks.com. We thank Don and his crew for helping keep our CX500 running strong and awesome. Also, we want to give a big shout out to Indian of Oklahoma City, located at 7 Northeast 10th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73104, or 405-606-3615. We promise you will not find a better family in motorcycles that will help you get on the dream ride that you're looking for. We also want to reach out to any dealership who might be interested in letting us ride and get your videos out there and your motorcycles. Please reach us at the email in our About section. I'd like to also thank our sponsors, Law Tigers Motorcycle Lawyers, locally in Oklahoma, 405-276-4986, and 24/7 states everywhere, 1-888-863-7216. Also, Doug Crawford with AMSOIL USA Synthetics. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170, providing AMSOIL for our motorcycles and keeping them protected. Also, Enloe & Associates Insurance Agency, locally in Oklahoma at 405-261-1010. Once again, thank you so much for watching, folks. You all have a great one. We'll catch you on the next ride.